Welcome to an exclusive info chat with Doom the Dark Ages composer's finishing move. They reveal the process behind making the music, crazy instruments and stories, their favorite guns, and what it was like working with Hugo Martin himself, and so much more. So we know that Doom has a unique history with music and some odd instruments. So tell me a little bit more about this Murderbox, and if I'm saying this correctly, is it Talharpa? It's the Viking instrument?
Murderbox and Talharpa are two different things. I will talk about the Murderbox, and I will let Alex talk about the Talharpa. So the Murderbox was just a nickname I gave to the apprehension engine. It's an instrument that was invented by Mark Corvin, a Canadian composer, horror composer, and we actually had one commissioned for us, custom for Callisto Protocol. And so was able to do it's basically like a bunch of aleatoric sounds crammed into one little kind of fun space that you can kind of perform, if you will. So there's like a hurdy-gurdy, there's things you can slap and scrape and do all kinds of just the most horrible sounds you've ever heard. We've extensively sampled it, so we're able to kind of use it in textures and things like that. And so, I mean, we have a bunch of instruments we've made and created and stuff like that. I'm sure the Murderbox found its way into Doom. Alex, you want to talk about the some of the Doom specific stuff that we brought out?
Yeah, totally. The Talharpa, Tegelharpa, bowed lyre, it's got some different names. It's this instrument that originated in Northern Europe. And it's usually super simple, where it's like a 3-string kind of bowed instrument. I've got the bass one here that was made by a craftsman in Poland, actually. And it's so cool. You can just find these people on the internet, and it's just like a little independent operation, making them a traditional way. There's horsehair strings. For extra strings, he just gave me like a ball of horsehair that I have to wind, and I actually had to make one when a string broke. But it added such a cool texture to medieval Doom. Sometimes a cello sounds a little bit too pristine and clean, whereas a Tegelharpa I would compare to like a cello with more hair on its chest. And it's got these really interesting overtones and just this rawness that when you mic it up really, really closely, it adds this really interesting grit and texture. And we used it on its own, exposed, as well as adding like a texture to the guitar layers.
Yeah, and it depends on how hard you play it and the different dynamics you put into it as well, I'm sure, right? Depending on the type of sound you want out of it. And Speaking of sound too, I was watching this. We'll start with Alex on this, but everyone can jump in too. There was a video that you were on, Alex. You were talking about how you track this digitally because with the process going over the span of years, you want to have that consistent sound. You bump a microphone and it throws off the tone that you're going for. So with that in mind, how long was the production for Dark Ages?
I think we started.
Jay was in it.
I think we started in the fall of 2022. And went all the way to spring 2025, up to and through the launch. So I think all in it was about 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool too, because it gives you a chance to really flesh out the couple hours and some of the OST. Did you see a lot of the game going into it, or did you collaborate with Hugo and Marty a bit to kind of see the vision of the game? The
whole time we were looking at concept art, we were playing builds. I think there was a build. As soon as we came on, there was something playable that we were able to get our own Steam branch of and have that updated, so we could constantly kind of play things. Hugo, as I'm sure you know, he's so involved in all aspects of the game making process, which is actually pretty unique to have someone that's there in every meeting. He's like such a full stakeholder in it, and he was always kind of championing our process and encouraging us the whole time. But yeah, he's a big part of how the Dark Ages sound was defined and kind of the cinematic experience that he was going for. So huge part of the collaboration working with Hugo, like basically day to day.
Wow. So that's pretty cool, because you said 22 to 25. When I would play the game back in March, everything sounded full and polished and great, even at that point. And then we still have a couple months till the release. So you had that time to really flesh it out. But unfortunately, along the way, there's a phrase. It's called "kill your darlings," and you might have to remove something from the OST or something that just doesn't make the cut. How do you decide what to do in that? And what was the first track that you sent in for the game?
Yeah. So our goal on any OST is to take what are typically hundreds of game assets, so things like loops, connecting pieces, and then curate each suite into a more digestible song format. So something that can stand alone as an engaging piece of music outside the game environment, even for someone who hasn't played the game yet. So we also have to take into consideration things like runtime, track count, especially in the context of physical release, because you can only fit so many tracks on a physical medium. So that all plays a part.
Yeah, and I think I like what you said too about someone who hasn't played the game. I would listen to the soundtrack in my car with my son. He's 5, and he refers to metal music as doom music now. So
nice.
That his favorite track is Unchained Predator, but that's
awesome.
So it is interesting too to see how it's evolved even since. And I've noticed something through listening to it, is that there's like a Slayer motif, a recurring theme for even from the beginning and the intro that you hear throughout. How do you craft something like that and kind of sneak it in those different places?
So that specific motif was written pretty early in the process, but it just took a little while to find its way into different pieces of music, and then eventually into its fully realized form in the track From the Ashes. And something like that, there were just a lot of conversations about what it feels like to be the Slayer, and what you want the player to feel like as a Slayer as well. The demons are more scared of you than you are of them. A plague is coming, you are the plague, and that you are just this god amongst men. And the theme itself, it feels like something dark or sinister and powerful is emerging, but then it just has this massive leap down, and it's like more intense than anything that you could have imagined. And when crafting a theme, you want something that is small enough that you can plug it into all those different moments, whether it's just a small callback during a cinematic, or it can be expanded into a really big statement. So yeah, there were a few different character themes, but that one definitely came on early and then developed through the game.
And see, too, to add on what you said there, something I enjoy about it is that I feel like that the soundtrack, it takes you on a journey, because you're going through all these vast lands you've never been to before as a Slayer, and now you're going to places like the Cosmic Realm. It's similar to a concept album, to where it takes you on a story from start to finish. And when you create something like the Cosmic Realm, all the synth, the ambience, how do you come at that versus, say, the fast driving metal of Infernal Chasm?
Cosmic Realm was super, super cool because Hugo was just so hyped on Cosmic Realm from the very beginning. So when we finally got the assignment, it was like, let's go. We definitely wanted it to feel like a departure from the rest of the game. So, we're bringing in synthetic elements, but in this Cosmic Realm way. Cosmic horror, I love it personally, and it's just that, like, staring into the void, staring into the blackness of either the universe or the ocean, tentacles,
yeah.
Monsters,
oh, yeah.
and then this kind of spirituality nature to it. So the harmony as well, we changed up. We've got all these interesting kind of dissonances. We're not going for the medieval thing in that. We're going for more modern styles of metal as well, from something like Spirit Box or Thal in Humanity's Last Breath. And again, the synthetic elements we treated in that sort of Cosmic Realm way, where we're mangling field recordings using Simplant's algorithm to mangle those creature sounds into synth sounds, and just getting as crazy and otherworldly as we could, just like pushing the limit on that.
Something too.
Yeah, fun.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna just say, yeah, like a fun lead up to the Cosmic Realm, like from the Hugo side, is we would be working kind of on the first acts and maps, and he kept being like, I can't wait until we get to the cosmic realm, and I can't wait until I hear what you guys do. And it became this crazy thing where we're like, man, we're gonna have to really get weird with this, because he keeps talking about how cool it is, and we're like, we gotta deliver.
We gotta take a big swing.
Yeah, and that's what was cool too, because the demo, the press tour demo, it didn't have any of that. So people are seeing the Cyber Demon in the first act, and they're like, why is this guy, this big enemy, so early? And I'm over here thinking, oh, okay, something's coming. I don't know what yet, but it's going to come here. And to kind of expand on that, I'm hearing some different influences in the Cosmic Realm. We'll take a look at Into the Void in particular. I feel like is there a Korn influence in that? I don't know why that comes to mind. That and even Dark Halls, maybe, from Classic Doom?
Right. Yeah, the Dark Hole is one. People definitely caught on to that. And I can see the Korn reference as well with that clean guitar and the super dark sludgy guitars. And again, like we explored those more modern styles of metal and those really dark and avant-garde experimental styles, whereas the rest of the game is really exploring the earlier genres of metal. So this was definitely you're kind of right on the money with that.
And two, you want to have these different dynamics in the tracks. You want to take the listener on a journey. So when you're trying to do these dynamically different tracks, it can be difficult sometimes to really bring something to fruition. So what was some of the hardest parts that y'all ran into? Like, this is something we want to bring in the game, but it's tough to make it mesh.
I think with that, sometimes there's like certain pieces that you start and it's just like, there's something about it that works, but then it's difficult. So what ended up as Unholy Siege was called something else while we were working on it. We have like internal track names and then later retitled them. But that one's like gave us a lot of trouble, and where we almost had to like just put it on the shelf for like a couple of months and then come back to it later, and then we were able to, with like sort of fresh ears, to take a new approach to it, and then it ended up turning out really great. But it's like that was one of those ones that just like it gave us a lot of trouble. We thought it might not make the cut, and then we were able to reconfigure it later, and it ended up being really cool.
Is that the one that had a guitar solo in it? That guy?
Well, yeah. So it started as like kind of definitely like thrash metal, but like not as modern as like it needed to be, like because we approached like the thrash metal genre, but taking a modern, like really detuned aesthetic. But that one kind of started out and it was more of like true 80s thrash. There's like some like leads and stuff, like harmonized leads and stuff like that, and I think that just was not the right vibe. It's just like because with Dark Ages, things really have to be sinister.
Yeah.
And like there's some kind of like idiomatic cliches of metal that like I personally love, but that are not sinister, or like the sort of like some of the power metal cliches that of like like Iron Maiden type stuff, where I love it, but it's just not the right thing. And so we had to like steer away from that and make sure that it's like, okay, this has the right feeling. This is like sinister. You feel powerful, and make sure the emotion is right.
I've noticed too, as to add on to that, sometimes you'll go from a faster driving riff to you'll cut into halftime and just slow drone, and when that hits, that brings a lot of power to it. But
oh hell yeah! I mean, I think it's just the gameplay of Dark Ages. It just has that sort of slower, like you're a big tank just like powering through.
Even if something too, like I know whenever I've made music, I've had like Final 2, the real final. And doing something like that, I think that's a musician thing that. But kind of going back to hiding references in, there was something that someone pointed out to me in Battle of the Blackened Tide at around 3:54 in. There's a voice that says "Help me," and we think it calls back to Doom 3, the Lost Soul incident. So what kind of things have you hidden in there? Has there ever been things that people not found yet? Like classic Doom references or older sneaky things?
You want to take that?
Yeah,
I feel like
we gotta be secretive.
We
about it.
can't give away all.
Don't reveal everything,
all
of course.
But I mean, people dig, like Doom fans are just like, they are built different. but it's something that like we kind of went back and forth as well. Like we weren't sure how many classic references to put in. You know, being the kind of new kids on the block, it's like we want to pay homage, but also respect. And it's something that
it's a prequel
I think,
too. I mean, I think that was one of the things that we kept talking about with Hugo when it was like, do we do more of this? Do we do less of it? And it was kind of like ultimately, you know, like, well, it's a prequel, so none of this stuff has happened. So I think it was kind of like the concept of like leaning on something just like absolutely verbatim rather than just kind of like hinting at inspirations, I think was more of our approach to this. Just kind of like maybe it's like hinting at stuff to come kind of vibes versus like direct quotation. But it's actually wild, like people will pick out stuff on the internet that I feel like we probably heard in our heads but didn't fully realize.
That's the thing too, because I was on the official Doom Discord talking to people, and I'm like, I hear this reference in the song. I don't know if they intended it, but it's there. And people are like, no, it's not. And I'm trying to fight for this. It's in Eratum, the city. I swear the harpsichord part of Into Sandy's City has some sort of reminiscence there, if it's intentional or not. But it's just cool to like theory craft all these things and try to figure out like. And you mentioned calling back to things. There's some Sentinel language that's used in here. Did you work with Chad Mossholder with id to kind of craft and expand upon that? How'd that process go?
Yeah, that was really cool because we were somewhat given free reign just to get super creative. And this was pre kind of chat GPT craziness. So like we truly went and like kind of just like phonetically figured out more of the Sentinel language and added to it, which is really, really cool. We just came up with tons of kind of phrases, lyrics, recorded a whole bunch of different syllables, you know, the classic Karin Took stuff, but a whole bunch of others. And then it found its way into different tracks. And the way we recorded it too.
We recorded it just ourselves,
I remember seeing a video about that. It was gang vocals. You layered yourselves 50 times over. I've come from 2000s metalcore. I'm 36. So when I hear gang vocals, I'm like, this is what I grew up on almost. So that's cool to see y'all work on that. And I'm sure too you have a lot of cool memories and things you've really come up with in this time. Like, what's some of your coolest memories from making this OSD and this soundtrack that come to mind?
Coolest memories.
Cool stuff.
Jay, you go first. What's your coolest memory?
Probably playing the Ernie Ball St. Vincent, just getting a chance to rip on that thing and play some just nasty riffs. Like that thing was just so much fun to play. That was fresh for me.
I think for me, my favorite part of the experience was, just like Brian White had talked about earlier, of just like working with Hugo so closely. Like it's other projects, like I guess to explain to people that haven't worked on a video game before, like that doesn't happen. You're usually working with like some of the audio team and maybe the creative director on the project. Like they'll pop in a meeting once over the couple year experience, but you're not interacting with them. It's sort of like you deliver things and then they sort of go up the chain, and then that's how it goes. And so just Hugo being involved, and he really is sort of the vision behind the modern Doom games, and he's he has very clear thoughts on it. And so that was just like, that's really awesome. Just to someone like that like has this strong vision, it's really inspiring, so yeah, that for me, that was my favorite aspect of the project.
I'm kind of tied between either like the Sonic just playground of Cosmic Realm, but I'd have to say around like halfway through the project, it was just this kind of difficult period of finding the right formula or the right kind of recipe for the Dark Ages sound. And this was actually when we were creating Unchained Predator. And we were going back and forth with Hugo, as well as the entire id development team. Like, it was like passing the track off, they would play the game and be like, how does this feel, everybody? And we were figuring out, the right balance of metal, as well as medieval and cinematic, hybrid, all these different things. But there was just this one point where this next version, everything just clicked and everyone was like, that's the one. And that became, the main kind of thing of Unchained Predator, which then ended up in the reveal trailer. And I was just like, oh, so cool.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing, in addition to sort of what Trifon was talking about, just like working with id was amazing. Like such an amazing family of people, like always made us feel super welcome, always super supportive. Hugo is always very clear with the vision, and that helped us like actually be creative so much. Just having like that sort of like rock there that was like, knew where he wanted to take things, and so we could just kind of create a little playground around these fence posts and go crazy within that, and that was so much fun. Also, like, I think one of the cool things about this is like the almost hour of cinematics, and like those all have music, and like that's a cool kind of addition, I think, to the franchise, like having all these like full cinematics in a game, which we've been used to working on. A lot of other projects have had 2 hours of cinematics, and I think it's cool that like Doom got these like the full kind of cinematic treatment on this one, and getting to kind of like score those and kind of tie in the level motifs with where the cinematics were. So it was kind of, we made a conscious choice with the team to kind of make sure that the cinematics kind of ebbed and flowed in and out of the music that you were going to hear in that specific map. So we would quote things from that map's music in that cinematic. If you kind of listen carefully, you'll hear kind of like the similar textures or calls to certain things, and I think that was kind of a special one for this project.
Oh, yeah.
It is cool to be able to kind of look at the whole finishing move body of work. I mean, whether it's a flight sim or it's a Doom game, it's kind of cool to see that versatility and how you're able to adapt to it. For the next one, I'm going to start with Trifon here, but anybody can chime in too. Sure. Growing up, you listen to heavy metal as a kid, you get into more of electronic side as an adult, but what being able to fuse those together into making Doom, was there anything that happened throughout this period that was like a butterfly effect moment that just the trajectory was shifted? And what kind of advice would you offer to someone who wanted to make a game soundtrack?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so for me, like the pivotal shift is probably in my like early 20s, late teens, of just like being confident in my own tastes and aesthetic. And so like I grew up in the early, in the early 90s in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there was like a thrash metal explosion. Yeah. It's like Metallica, Exodus, Testament, all these bands, and like that is in my blood, But later in the 90s, that stuff's not as cool. The music I love, Yngwie Malmsteen, not cool. But like, and I was a little bit like closeted with my metal love. And so as I started my career, I'm building this electronic music thing and it's working. Like I start to meet other electronic music producers, and you get into a conversation, and then somehow metal comes up, and it's like, oh, you're a closeted metalhead too. And it's like, they just like light up with excitement. And there's so many people in my life that I've met where it's like we've sort of bonded over being sort of like former metalheads or current but closeted. And so I guess it's the idea of just like, if you can be honest with yourself and what your tastes are, and you accept it and unashamed of it, like I think that leads to the most interesting places, and it allows you to express something that's like truthful and real and authentic. And so it's like, metal's sort of always been my roots, and it still is. And I was a little bit shy about that, but at some point that shifted where I'm like, no, this is just part of it. Like I like this. Yeah. I love Yngwie Malmsteen. I love a million other things. And it's like, and so I think, if you're trying to do something, any kind of music for video games or just to make an artist record, like you have to be saying something that is truthful to you. And then if it means something to you, it will mean something to some amount of other people. And so it's like, just like leaning into who you are. That's, I guess, my thought on that.
And it does give you ways to pull influence from other areas, be it for any genres or a lot of other influences. And I think Alex will have something for this next one, because when it comes to metalcore and influences, be it Whitechapel, Spirit Box, all those sorts of things, Where do you draw from? I went to high school through the 2000s, so As I Lay Dying, August Burns Red, that whole thing. Where do you kind of pull from?
Yeah, I mean, that again was the stuff I grew up with too, like that whole kind of 2000s metalcore, Killswitch Engage, Trivium, like, yeah, Atreyu even, yeah, we lived through the emo era as well. But it was funny because when I was learning guitar as a teenager, I also had some of these classic references just because of whoever my teachers were, and like I hadn't really listened to Metallica because I was like, oh, that's like dad music.
Oh yeah.
But then when I started playing guitar, it was like, this is sick, and it was Maiden and Metallica, and like one of the first riffs I ever learned was Paranoid by Black Sabbath.
There you go.
But again, just like Tripone was saying, it's like these things have been dormant inside of me. But it's also been cool seeing more of a resurgence of metal and rock music, whether it's Spirit Box or Lorna Shore or Falling in Reverse or all these different awesome modern acts that are getting more attention nowadays, which is so cool.
And it's interesting too to kind of see going through high school and mid 2000s, it's just a phase. It wasn't just a phase. I'm still here, mid 30s, still enjoying it. But I like how you guys have expanded on like this thing was cool and then it was not, but honestly it's still cool all along. But I had something that I did want to bring up too, just to kind of round us out here. Studio cats. Okay, I have a cat myself. What do you think about animals in studio? Are they good little companions for when you're tracking music, or how's that go for you?
Yeah, I mean, my cats, I have 2 cats, soon to be getting a 3rd baby kitten. He's coming from the breeder soon in the next week or so. Abyssinians, they're all Abyssinians. Very, very sweet and wild cats. They are mostly not allowed in the studio because they will use the very expensive studio panel fabric as clawing as a clawing device, and so I have to watch them 100% of the time if they're in the studio. But otherwise, it's cool to just like since the studio, we all have like home studios, so it's cool to just kind of like pop in and out through the day and pet cats. I know Alex is the same. He lets his cats in the studio though, so maybe he can talk about that.
Yeah, I got mine, my children, Mimi and Momo, 2 little British short hairs, but I let them in, all the time. And again, the studio panels on the wall, they have scaled as well, and then just sit up there, or I have to take them down. But yeah, lots of, most times Momo's sleeping on my lap. She is listening to the Doom soundtrack more than anybody out there, so.
And Jay has a dog, but we'll.
I've got a studio puppy, but that's not accurate because she's not allowed in the studio. Because every time she comes in here, she gets all up behind the desk and all up in the cords. And she likes chewing on things, so she's a good studio break dog. I like to pet her on break and play with her, but she's not allowed in the studio. But she's adorable.
I have 2 sons, and they are occasionally allowed in the studio, but mainly they're just kind of like. They mainly don't spend time here. The main thing they were mad about is they love the like Minecraft Lava Chicken song, and for like for like just a minute, the Dark Ages Unchained Predator, like above that on the sales
on
like
the
on
Amazon charts, yeah,
and they're like and I was like, hey look, and they were mad about that. They're like, that's cool. Like this is Lava Chicken is the greatest of all time. So
I've heard that. So I've heard Lava Chicken many times now. Kids and everything. Yeah.
We're huge fans of Doom. We, Brian and I played the original Doom when we were like 12 years old, so we remember that. Despite our parents probably shouldn't have allowing us to do that at 12, but it was a different time in the early 90s. So we like. It's a crazy thing to like come full circle, and we just love Doom. We love the franchise. We love Doom music. I mean, like, it has had so much good music, whether it's the Bobby Prince all the way through to Mick Gordon, and like just the fans, and we're so honored to be able to kind of like offer our take on it, and And again, we come at it as just like huge fans of the franchise and the music, and it's just been like a dream come true for us to get to be a part of this.
Absolutely. And one actually question about the history of Doom, like for Super Nintendo, because I played it on PC, but like Super Nintendo, there's a period of time where they didn't allow blood. Yeah. Everything looked like sweat. And I can't remember, did Doom for Super Nintendo, was it like sweat and not blood? Or had they transitioned at that point to the like rating system? That's something I'm curious about, because I feel like I have some memory of that, of it not being blood, but maybe that's not correct. So
I had it on PC, so the blood was
it was there.
It was in full force DOS. You had to boot into DOS to run it, and that was a whole thing on we had a Hewlett Packard. That brand doesn't exist anymore. Yeah,
man, just like thank you, Allstin, for like all the like awesome content you put out.
Thank you.
Supporting the soundtrack, listening to the soundtrack, so cool. And I wanted to ask you if you've what's your kind of favorite weapon combo right now in the Dark Ages, or like if you've got like a cheesy combo like combination that you do.
Favorite weapon. Okay. So right now it's the Impaler, because there's such a synergy between the shield throw, the charge, all the shield movements empower that shot, and it returns your ammo, which this is what empowers it, which also the lobotomy upgrade recharges your melee. So you get this cool synergy going on here where it's shoot, throw, empower, whole circle. But you can really do this with any weapon. The accelerator, a lot of people are sleeping on. There's the rocket launcher. There's a whole lot of cool tech in it, and there's just a lot of things that we're going to discover over time that people are just going to start popping off with. I'm curious to see it. What about yours?
Yeah, me too. Ooh, Impaler has been a favorite of mine, just like nailing people against the wall as well.
Yeah, cool. Nice touch. Friendly touch.
There was an old version of it that it was way overtuned and just shot so many so fast. But I can see why they tuned it down.
Oh yeah.
But I've been also as a like a counterpoint, like I've also been enjoying the chain shot just for how cheesy it can be, especially like against Mancubus or something. But yeah.
The armor.
I like the Skull Crusher. But it's not because it's like a great weapon. Actually, it's I find I kind of stuck with it. But there's a sound effect that just constantly plays, and it's like this. It's like the skulls like brewing in the chamber, and it's like this high. If you're wearing headphones, you can really hear it. And I remember the first time hearing it, I was like, what is going on? Like, what are my headphones like? And I'm like, no, that's like skulls brewing in the just kind of like twisting around, ready to go.
And the little
so that's my favorite.
The piston's like makes the little revving up. And you can kind of hear that too. It's grinding skulls. Like, that's cool. I mean, how else are you going to get around it? That is a cool thing. That is a metal weapon. But I think we'll see a lot more coming from the community, and I'm just curious to see it too, because I'm finding a lot of people are really enjoying it, just from getting in the community and discussion.
Yeah, I mean, people, the response on like Spotify and stuff, I mean, I see the numbers, and so it's like, that to me is like, wow, like you guys are really messing with this, and that is amazing. Like, for a video game score, like, we've done this a million times, and this is like the Doom effect on our Spotify numbers is for real. It's like a legit force of listens, and it's crazy to see, like, I can see data like who's like what city in the world, what's the favorite, who's listening to the most, like what cities and metros and stuff like that. And it's super fun to see. It's like, whoa, there's like 4,000 people in London, like that kind of thing, where you're like,
worldwide.
That's crazy, to think that there's like that many people, in some place you've never been, and they're listening to your music, and it's crazy. Yeah, we're really stoked with, just like all the positive feedback and all the nice messages that we get, even the mean messages, that's okay too.
They're entertaining. Yeah, They're fun.
I also did a 3-video interview series with the one and only Hugo Martin, so if you like this one, you're going to love that one. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss out. See you over there.